In the first episode, I discussed how the governing board of the Jehovah's Witnesses have concealed a secret to its members, a secret so dark that if exposed, could actually lead to the collapse of the Watchtower Society. I mentioned that in the world flowing with information, one organization has mastered an art of hiding the secret in plain sight to its members. One way they've kept this secret in plain sight is information lockdown. In today's video, we look at the second method that the governing board of the Jehovah's Witnesses has carefully orchestrated to hide this dark secret, constructing a perfect prison of the mind. What if everything you believe was actually a carefully constructed prison, not with bars, but with ideas so deeply implanted you would never think to question them? This is the reality of 8 million Jehovah's Witnesses. The Watchtower Society has built what experts call the perfect mind control system. And it all starts with 3 psychological traps. Trap number 1, branding the truth. In order to ensure that you don't get exposed to competing voices, to alternative views, to alternative ideas. Perfect trap, perfect system to ensure that this dark secret hidden from members, so dark that if exposed could lead to the collapse of the Watchtower Society, is perfectly kept and secured in plain sight. The final piece of this psychological prison, the perfect one, the best amongst all the traps, it's so powerful that compliance is almost automatic, subconsciously, unconsciously automatic. And what is that? Fear. Jehovah's Witnesses are constantly kept in fear. I was going through chats on one XJW WhatsApp platform, and one member asked, what is it that when you left found so difficult to let go? Some of them mentioned the fear of Armageddon. And if mentally they know it's not true, but psychologically they fear that it might come anytime. We hear of stories of children fearing that Armageddon fire will fall from heaven and consume them. Here's a clip.
As a child, every night that you went to bed, you believed this may be your last night. You may not wake up.
Of course, it was always constantly that Armageddon could be coming at any minute.
What does Armageddon look like in the world of the Jehovah's Witnesses?
In my head, it was giant fireballs coming out of the sky and people screaming and dying in front of me.
A fiery death wasn't the only thing that scared Tricia. In fact, in a way, her own world had already ended. Since she was a child, she says, she had been abused by someone she should have been able to trust the most.
So this is not just ordinary fear, but existential terror of Armageddon. Watchtower illustrates cities burning, guns blazing and being fired.
So to help us to make sure that we've got some idea of some of the events that occur during the Great Tribulation, let's look at this review. What event starts the Great Tribulation? The destruction of Babylon the Great. That will be the time when the political powers turn on the world empire of false religion, showing their disgust for this symbolic prostitute. This will lead to the destruction of all false religious organizations. What event ends the Great Tribulation? The Battle of Armageddon. That will be the final part of the Great Tribulation. Jesus, along with the resurrected 144,000 and myriads of angels, will battle with all those who oppose Jehovah, his kingdom, and his people here on earth. This will be the war of the great day of God the Almighty.
Convention videos depict non-witnesses begging for mercy as fire rains from heaven.
And Jehovah's Witnesses believe in Armageddon, the final battle between God and all wicked humans. They believe it'll happen any day now.
Armageddon is a battle. It's a battle against the forces of darkness, and the only way to be saved is to actually follow Jehovah and adopt our interpretation of the Bible. That's essentially it.
Who else but Christ Jesus would lead the heavenly forces to the Battle of Armageddon? False religion has already been destroyed. Now Jesus turns his attention to what remains of Satan's wicked world, its political and commercial systems. He dismantles, destroys, and brings to nothing all who oppose true worship on earth.
Children grow up fearing that their school friends will soon be destroyed by God. This constant state of anxiety serves one purpose: to keep members obedient. When you genuinely believe that the world could end any time, you don't plan for retirement. You don't build a house. You don't get a university degree. You don't get a high-paying job. Your focus is to work for Jehovah's organization, because it's through Jehovah's organization that you are going to be saved.
You need just enough to go by because, the world's going to end anyway.
First, the parents themselves had no savings because they were told, once you just apply yourself, you commit your life to ministry, Jehovah will take care of the rest. No need for planning. So, but how? Here's the clip.
As I get older, who will care for me? Have you ever asked yourself similar questions? Has this uncertainty made you anxious or fearful? Such feelings can make it hard to think clearly. But these feelings can go away when we realize that we are well prepared. The Apostle Peter wrote his letters during times of trials and instability. And Peter, who was getting older, may have wondered how he and other elderly ones would be cared for later in life. He may have perceived that aging and declining health could create uncertainty and fear in some. What did the Apostle Peter recommend in view of future uncertainties? So did Peter tell the brothers and sisters to stockpile money or supplies? No. He encouraged them to strengthen their faith and trust in Jehovah. There are no uncertainties for Jehovah. He had promised to protect the Christians in the first century, and he would provide salvation.
And you also don't question authority. You obey, not out of love, but out of sheer survival instinct.
I'm watching the broadcast. I'm watching their morning worship videos. I'm reading these magazines, and I'm paying attention. I'm looking at what they're saying. And I find myself becoming increasingly disturbed at what I'm reading. I'm reading it not as a witness that I'm just going to accept everything. This is all the truth. Thank goodness for the spiritual food. I'm looking at it and I'm like, what is going on here? And so I actually want to give you and your audience a couple examples of that. This is from the December 2022 Watchtower, page 21. I didn't get the month on that one. But these quotes I'm about to mention are all about obedience, obeying the authority, obeying the governing body, which is Jehovah's Witness leadership. It's their leaders, the governing body. This quote says, "Do your best to obey the direction you receive, even if you do not fully understand why it is being given." Another one, November Watchtower 2015. "The life-saving direction that we receive from Jehovah's organization may not appear practical from a human standpoint. All of us must be ready to obey any instructions we may receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not." Another one, this is from the Meeting Workbook of 2020, November. "We should likewise listen to any instructions we receive from Jehovah's organization and obey promptly and wholeheartedly. This is true even if it does not seem important to follow them, or we do not understand the reason for the instructions." This is this is a pattern. This is something they've been saying more and more and more and more, and getting a little more extreme with it too. In fact, I mentioned the JW Broadcasting. I think it was the October edition of the JW Broadcasting. They said the same thing again in one of the talks. And so I'm hearing this and I'm following the thread on what does this mean? They keep saying obey, 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 obey. Obey if it doesn't make sense. Obey if you disagree with it. Don't ask questions. Obey if everything inside your mind and heart is screaming out at you, don't do this thing, you need to obey. And I'm like, that's not good. That's unhealthy. First of all, that's if you applied that standard to any relationship, that's not a healthy relationship.
And these are the people who say we are saved by grace. And yet, you can only survive Armageddon by fear, by works, by compliance. Now, the psychological trap is only half the truth. But what happens when fear is used to empty bank accounts? When members are deliberately kept poor and exhausted? That is the topic of our next episode. So in the next episode, we follow the money trail and expose how the Watchtower Society profits by keeping its members in financial bondage. If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload the next episode, you'll receive a notification and you'll not miss a single episode. If you have any questions, you are seeking clarifications, you don't agree with what I've said, kindly put them in the comments below. If you don't agree with me, also put that in the comments below. Let's start the conversation. If you did not watch part 1 of this video, click on this link. To watch part 3 of this video, click on this link. To watch the video on how the Jehovah's Witnesses have silently acknowledged that Jehovah is not God's divine name, click on this link. To watch how the Jehovah's Witnesses have developed a sophisticated mind control system, click on this link. In this series, we are looking at the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses' darkest secret that they've hidden from their members. A secret so dark that, if exposed, could lead to the collapse of the Watchtower Society. And they've implemented strategies to actually hide this secret in plain sight. In the first episode, we looked at how they've used the information lockdown to hide this secret in plain sight. In episode 2, we looked at how they have developed a sophisticated and perfect prison, the prison of the mind, to ensure that members don't go out of that prison to discover this dark secret hidden in plain sight. This is Tell Me Dr. K, a channel on which we discuss matters of theological nature, no matter how difficult, complex, uncomfortable, or politically incorrect the topic might be. Because on Dr. K, no question, no topic is off limit. In today's video, we are going to discuss how the Watchtower Society profits by keeping its members in financial bondage. Buckle up, because it's going to be a rough ride. Picture this: a religion that sits on billions in real estate and investment, while its members struggle to pay rent, take children to school, or even afford insurance. This is not a contradiction. It's done by design. Today we are exposing how the Watchtower Society systematically keeps its members poor, exhausted, and financially dependent. The first rule of financial control: limit education. While they never directly say don't go to college, Watchtower publications and videos are full of cautionary tales, discouraging members, particularly the young members, from pursuing higher education. Let's sample some of these clips and tales.
Back in 2005, the faithful slave provided counsel regarding higher education in the October 1st, 2005 issue of the Watchtower, pages 26 through 31. The article was entitled, "Parents, What Future Do You Want for Your Children?" The cover of the very next issue, October 15th, 2005, asked the question, what is the best education? You may have noticed that we've not published that thorough of a discussion on the subject since that time. Why is that? Has the governing body changed its position regarding the pursuit of higher secular education? No. We feel that all of the cautions that we have addressed in the past are still valid. It is the potential for spiritual harm that has moved us to provide the cautions we have shared in the past. Having said that, it does not change the fact that all too often our young people have met with spiritual disaster, especially after leaving home and living on a university campus.
Do you remember that 18-year-old young brother who is trying to decide which path to take? Well, that was me some years ago. I'm so glad that with the help of Jehovah and my parents and other mature friends in the congregation, I made the decision, just like so many other brothers and sisters around the world, to turn down that scholarship, to give up university, and go directly into the full-time service.
Personally, I am so thankful to Jehovah that positive peer pressure was put on me to enter the pioneer ministry right out of high school. What a blessing and a protection it was to enter the regular pioneer work at age 17 and to be able to go to Bethel at 18. Even though there was considerable worldly pressure put on me to pursue university education, I am so happy that with Jehovah's help, I decided to build my future with Jehovah.
If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload the next episode, you'll receive a notification and you'll not miss a single episode. They show young sisters losing faith for going to college. Young sister stop spiritual activities because she's so busy studying. A brother's education that leads him away from the faith. The March 2025 broadcasting is a perfect example of this. A discussion about Baruch, how he was pursuing his own agenda. It is entitled, Do Great Things for Jehovah, meaning for the organization.
You parents must also make personal decisions about secular education for your children. Naturally, you want them to get a good education, but you have to think carefully about potential dangers. You younger Christians approaching adulthood must make decisions involving education and employment. There may be many choices, but which ones will help you live up to your dedication to Jehovah? One sister said this, "As a baptized witness, I had read and heard about the dangers of pursuing university education, but I dismissed such warnings. I thought that counsel did not apply to me." Well, our sister made a personal choice in the matter, but was it a wise one? She continues, "Studying for my courses took so much time and effort that I was too busy to linger in prayer to Jehovah the way I used to, too exhausted to enjoy Bible discussions with others, and too tired to prepare well for the meetings. Thankfully, once I realized that being immersed in higher education was damaging my relationship with Jehovah, I knew I had to stop, and I did."
The results are staggering. Only 12% of Jehovah's Witnesses have a university degree in the US. 12%. The lowest rate for any religious group. Now, here's the problem. Without higher education, your career prospects vanish. Critical thinking underdeveloped. And most importantly, the ability to question or leave the organization becomes more difficult. I've done a video on why Jehovah's Witnesses have a phobia of college degree. I'll leave a link at the end of this video for you to watch that one. What is the next rule of financial control? Demonization of material success. I've done a two-part series entitled Why Jehovah's Witnesses Want You Poor. The Watchtower Society literature is littered with subtle messages. Avoid the rat race. Don't be consumed by career ambitions. That is also discussed in the March 2025 broadcasting, but also is discussed in Stephen Letty's talk entitled Beware of Materialism. And those two videos are based on the same.
Many of us need to work to support ourselves, but finding the type of work that allows us to serve Jehovah whole-souled may be challenging. Let's see how Bible principles influence the career decisions of two young publishers.
Why was it difficult to choose a career?
Most of my family have a university degree. Some are lawyers, engineers, accountants, and so on. So they expected me to go to university as well. They told me, "We don't have a doctor in the family yet." we think you should study medicine.
When I was 16, I was about to leave high school. Many of my schoolmates were planning to study at university and would say things like, "I want to go to this school. Which one are you going to?" I felt a lot of pressure to get a higher education. My teachers told me that I needed to continue my studies if I really wanted to make money.
I wanted to be a teacher, but there was so much pressure from my family to study something that would allow me to have a higher salary.
There were times when I felt overwhelmed because of the pressure. Even after I graduated from high school, a teacher contacted me to make sure that I was planning to go to university and, in his words, actually become someone in this world.
I started a 6-year psychology degree at university. And at the same time, I was studying for a teacher certificate on the weekends. And on top of all of that, I was working part-time. I was trying to do everything.
What helped you make a good decision?
I spoke with my mom about what I should do. She helped me to think about some of the dangers I would be exposed to at university, things that could endanger me in a spiritual sense.
After about 2 years, it became clear that I couldn't continue with such a busy routine. I needed to make a change. I remembered some advice I got from a friend. He had studied to become an accountant when he was young, but now he sells chilies. He jokingly said, "So now I'm counting chilies, so I guess you could say that it is what I studied."
That is also discussed in Stephen Letty's talk entitled Beware of Materialism.
Well, numerous other experiences could be related that illustrate the power of materialism. In fact, it may well be that Satan's most effective trap against Jehovah's people in these last days is materialism. But now you might be thinking, well, isn't sexual immorality by far the number one cause for disfellowshipping? That's true. But we don't have figures for ones who fall away to materialism. They're not disfellowshipped. And furthermore, how many who succumbed to sexual immorality were first weakened spiritually by materialism? Well, at least we can say that materialism is one of Satan's most effective tools or traps against Jehovah's people today.
Now, on the surface, this appears to be very spiritual. After all, there are examples in the Bible, warnings about the love of money. Jesus even said, beware of covetousness. Paul even told Timothy of some in wanting to be rich, they've wrecked their faith. But in practice, it keeps members in low-paying jobs, no savings or safety nets. Meanwhile, the organization itself owns billions in properties and investments.
Because just down the road is the world headquarters of the Jehovah's Witnesses. They call it Bethel, the house of God, sprawling over 250 acres. 800 people live and work here, including the group's legal advisors, support staff, and the governing body. 8 men who establish and supervise Jehovah's Witnesses doctrine.
There is a claim that their Warwick headquarters cost $100 million to construct. There is also information online showing that the Brooklyn headquarters was sold for over $2 billion, bringing all the properties around $2 billion. It is alleged they own massive farms, printing facilities, real estate worldwide. The message is clear. Poverty is virtuous for you, but not for us. Finally, we come to the exhaustion factor. The average Jehovah's Witnesses spends 15 to 20 hours per week on religious activities, meetings, personal preaching, personal study, family study, midweek services, conventions, and volunteer work. Add a full-time job and family responsibilities, and you have a recipe for burnout. This isn't accidental. Exhausted people don't question. They don't research. They have no time for all that. They have no energy to consider alternatives. They simply obey. We've been talking with my family as to why when you meet Jehovah's Witnesses, there's just like they've been covered by a blanket. There's just this appearance of being absorbed, being lost in thoughts, really not being happy. And I've just realized they are exhausted. They are stressed to the maximum. Because in the Jehovah's Witnesses world, being spiritual means attending each of these meetings. If you're not getting involved in these spiritual activities, you are considered as spiritually weak. Hence, you risk not surviving Armageddon.
I knew that if I studied at university, I would be losing valuable time during my youth. Time that I could be using for Jehovah.
Sometimes we have many different options in front of us, or we know that we need to adjust our course. That's when looking to Bible principles can help us to choose the right path.
My father has a barbershop, and he offered to teach me how to be a barber. My parents told me, people will always need a haircut. So even though I knew I wouldn't be making millions as a barber, it was work that would always be in demand.
I decided to leave university halfway through my degree and look for part-time teaching work. During that time, I prayed so much, asking Jehovah to bless my decision.
What benefits have come from your decisions?
I'm my own boss. I work in a barber shop and also travel to people's homes and give them haircuts. I have the freedom to decide the days and hours that I work.
Jehovah answered my prayers. I was able to find part-time work teaching at a school, which allows me to be in full-time service, along with my husband.
Because of the flexibility I have with my work, I enjoy opportunities to participate in construction projects for the organization. I've seen clearly that by focusing on what's most important, Jehovah has blessed me.
I continue to see the fulfillment of Matthew 6:33 in my life. Jehovah has always provided what I needed.
But the most insidious control tactics aren't financial, they are emotional. In the next video, we consider how the Watchtower Society uses guilt, shame, and threat of losing every member of your family to keep you in line. If you are enjoying this video, kindly like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload the next episode, you'll receive a notification and you'll not miss a single episode. If you have any questions, you are seeking clarifications, you don't agree with what I've said, kindly put them in the comments below. If you don't agree with me, also put that in the comments below. Let's start the conversation. If you did not watch part 1 of this video, click on this link. To watch part 2 of this video, click on this link. To watch the video on how the Jehovah's Witnesses have silently acknowledged that Jehovah is not God's divine name, click on this link. To watch why Jehovah's Witnesses have a phobia of college degree, click on this link. In this episode, the final episode, we reveal the Jehovah's Witnesses' darkest secret hidden from its members, a secret so dark that if members realized, if members discovered, there would be a stampede in the organization and members would leave in droves. And it could lead to the total collapse of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. It would mean the more than 130 years of existence would come to an end, just like that. The problem is that the governing body has ensured, has put systems that this secret is hidden in plain sight, right in front of the noses of the members, right in front of their eyes, and they would not even recognize it. And this is Tell Me Dr. K, a channel on which we discuss matters of theological nature, no matter how complex, difficult, uncomfortable, or politically incorrect they might be. Because on Dr. K, no question, no issue, no topic is off limit. We showed you in episode 1 that first there's been information lockdown so that members don't get access to this information. Episode 2, we showed you that members have been isolated and made them to fear anything that is not from the Jehovah's Witness. to mistrust everything and anything and anyone, including family members who are non-witness. In episode 3, we showed you how they've kept members busy, tired, and poor, because people who are exhausted, poor, and tired have no time to question. They just obey. In episode 3, we showed you the mental cage they've used. An example of such a trap is fear. You dare not question. And in episode 4, we actually explain how they've used the most powerful weapon to ensure that members who discover this truth are sanctioned, and they use an emotional trap. And their biggest weapon in their arsenal, disfellowshipping. So, you've seen how they control information, emotions, minds, and wallets. But the question still remains, what is this dark secret that they've so carefully protected? Let's look at the governing body, the custodians of this secret, the custodian of this Holy Grail. It is the Holy Grail, the oracle, which is passed on from one governing body to another. It was started by Charles Taz Russell, magnified by Joseph Rutherford. 11 men, one compound, global control. The governing body resides in Warwick, New York. And yet their decisions ripple across the lives of more than 8 million people worldwide. They claim divine authority. As Jehovah's only sole communication on earth, members aren't just following scripture, they are following the monthly updates, procedure letters, videos, new light. What are the implications of questioning these men? It's not seen as doubt. It's not seen as a crisis of faith. It is seen as rebellion to God. It's a mortal sin that will result in destruction at Armageddon. Jehovah's Witnesses believe that disobedience against the governing body is disobedience against God. They also tell you that their organization, the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania, is God's organization, is Jehovah's organization. It is the earthly part of Jehovah's organization.
We're going to talk about money. Now, the fact is we never beg for money, but that's not to say we can't talk about money in Jehovah's organization, the earthly part.
Another way we can contribute to the oneness, rejecting false stories that are designed to separate us from Jehovah's organization. As an example, think about the apostate-driven lies and dishonesties that Jehovah's organization is permissive toward pedophiles. I mean, that is ridiculous, isn't it? If anybody takes action against someone who would threaten our young ones and takes action to protect our young ones, it's Jehovah's organization.
Obedience to Jehovah's organization is synonymous with obedience to God. But these men are not prophets. They are not infallible. They have actually admitted themselves that they are not infallible. Here's the clip from Jeffrey.
And also, the governing body is neither inspired nor infallible. And so it can err in doctrinal matters or in organizational direction.
And yet their words are law. They alone have the anointing to interpret scripture. No one else is allowed to. Not only are you not allowed to interpret scripture, you are not even supposed to look at other materials with contrary interpretation. And yet what these men say become law, no matter how contradictory, how harmful or absurd it is. If you are enjoying this video, can do me a favor, like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will receive a notification. And they tell you, obey, even if it doesn't make sense. Even if you don't know why you are obeying, just obey. Here is a clip.
What is the link between Armageddon and obedience? Now, James chapter 3, verse 17 helps us to find the answer. There we read that we need to be ready to obey.
Here is a clip from Light Over Dark Ministry interviewing Blue.
these quotes I'm about to mention are all about obedience, obeying the authority, obeying the governing body, which is Jehovah's Witness leadership. It's their leaders, the governing body. This quote says, "Do your best to obey the direction you receive, even if you do not fully understand why it is being given." Another one, the November Watchtower 2015. "The life-saving direction that we receive from Jehovah's organization may not appear practical from a human standpoint. All of us must be ready to obey any instructions we may receive, whether these appear sound from a strategic or human standpoint or not." Another one, this is from the Meeting Workbook of 2020, November. "We should likewise listen to any instructions we receive from Jehovah's organization and obey promptly and wholeheartedly. This is true even if it does not seem important to follow them, or we do not understand the reason for the instructions."
So when you save men with absolute obedience, who are you saving? Who are you really worshiping? Let's ask another wholesome question. What kind of spirit requires absolute loyalty, emotional suppression, fear of outsiders, punishment for doubt? This is not the spirit of truth. This is not the spirit of God or love or freedom. It is the spirit of bondage, of domination. And domination always has a cost. This is contrary to what Paul wrote to the Galatians and the Corinthians. Galatians chapter 5 verse 1 reads, "It is for freedom that Christ has set us free, not bondage." 2 Corinthians chapter 3 verse 17 says, "Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom," or there is liberty. Unfortunately, there is neither freedom nor liberty among the Jehovah's Witnesses. It's total bondage. The Bible also tells us in 1 John chapter 4 verse 18, John wrote, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with punishment." King James Version says, "Fear has torment." So, the fact that members are under constant fear of Armageddon, fear of the governing body, is a clear sign that the Jehovah's Witnesses are actually not serving Jehovah. And it continues, "And whosoever fears has not perfected in love." So if you're still inside, ask yourself, why are questions dangerous? Why is research discouraged? Why are ex-JWs labeled as enemies? Why is everything that is non-Jehovah's Witness considered as systems of this world? Why is even the government systems, which the Bible tells us in the book of Romans chapter 13, that it's God who created the government system. Can God create an evil system? Yes, we know that there are some leaders who use this system, and there are some systems that are contrary to, but it's not every system. It's not every government. So why label everything as evil, as under the control of Satan? Why shield people from alternative views and yet claim that you have the truth? Doesn't the truth need to stand scrutiny? Definitely, if it is the truth, it will stand scrutiny.
Before I woke up, there was a point when I was questioning that started to bother me more. But before that, it didn't, and it's like the truth should be able to withstand a lie. So we shouldn't have to be afraid if these people are actually, lying about this stuff, then that should hold, the truth should hold up under that.
Some years back, a friend of mine told me that a lie goes half the world just when the truth is putting on shoes. So, no matter what lies people say, the truth will still be proven. So, why all this secrecy, protection? The real secret the governing body is hiding is that Jehovah's Witnesses do not worship Yahweh. And who do they worship? They worship the organization under the pretext of God. Remember, it is God, is Jehovah's organization here on earth. And serving Jehovah's organization is equivalent to serving Jehovah. Obedience to Jehovah's organization is synonymous with obedience to God. The terms Jehovah and Jehovah's organization are used simultaneously, one after the other, to the point where subconsciously You can't even make a distinction whether you're talking about Jehovah or the organization. Again, here is a clip from Light Over Dark Ministry, interviewing Blue.
By my assessment, the governing body, the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses, have taken the place of Jehovah God.
Sure.
And the reason I say that is all in the language that's employed by the members. Like if you asked the witness and you said, hey, you think the governing body is Jehovah, they're going to say, no, that's ridiculous. Of course I don't. But every single thing that refers to the organization is also somehow referring to Jehovah. I'll give you a couple examples. So if you're a witness and you're reading the Watchtower and the Watchtower says you need to follow Jehovah. Following Jehovah means following the organization. If you want to serve Jehovah, that means serving the organization. If you want to listen to Jehovah, that means listening to the organization. And I feel like it's especially seen in something that people have actually said to us since this has happened. If you leave the organization, you have left Jehovah. Mm-hmm. So in every single time you turn around, the organization and Jehovah are always conflated.
Yep.
Always. So, while a witness would say, no, of course the organization is not Jehovah, in effect it is. The authority with which the organization speaks is the authority by which, if Jehovah God himself were speaking, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's unconscious.
So unknowingly, the members of the Watchtower Society, aka Jehovah's Witnesses, do not worship Yahweh. They worship Jehovah. And who is Jehovah? The Watchtower Bible and Tract Society of Pennsylvania. I have done 3 videos so far showing that even the word Jehovah is not a correct divine name. If you want to watch those series of videos, I'll leave a link at the end where I give you irrefutable evidence that the tetragrammaton, which means 4 letters in Greek, YHWH, has been refuted, that there is no way in a million years that this word could be translated, pronounced, interpreted as Jehovah. And Jehovah's Witnesses know very well, because they acknowledge this in the 1969 foreword of the Kingdom Interlinear on page 23. And here is the admission, as you can see it on the screen. They say they retain the word Jehovah because of its popularity. And here's a clip from Jeffrey Jackson also acknowledging this.
Well, first of all, let's establish why we use the pronunciation Jehovah in English. Is it because it's the closest pronunciation to the original? No. We use the name Jehovah because it's widely recognized in English.
So they are serving an organization, a brand, a corporation, a multi-billion-dollar corporation that has concocted a sophisticated system of abuse of members, well-meaning members. I know most of the rank and file of Jehovah's Witnesses are convinced beyond any reasonable doubt you are serving Jehovah, and the rest of us are going to die at Armageddon. We will perish. I've done a video on Armageddon. I've exposed the lie of Armageddon, and a link will be available at the end of this video when I upload it. You're worshiping a corporation, a brand. So what is the darkest secret that the governing body has hidden, so dark that if it was exposed to members, it could lead to the collapse of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society? The secret is that the members of the Jehovah's Witnesses are not worshiping God, Yahweh. They are worshiping the organization. They are actually worshiping the governing body. Secondly, they are in a cult, a high-degree cult, fully fledged cult. I did an AI assessment of cults, and the Jehovah's Witnesses passed 100%. I first asked the AI to tell me characteristics of cults. After doing that, I tested the Seventh-day Adventists. They did not come out as a cult, but as cultish, because they scored 4.1 out of 10. The Jehovah's Witnesses scored 100%. So if you're a member of the Jehovah's Witness and you're watching this video, I know you will not agree. Why? because your mind has been ring-fenced against the truth. And especially if you are even born within the Jehovah's Witnesses, this is embedded in your subconscious, in your character, in your being, whole soul. But you thank me in future. So the cat is out of the bag. So reclaim your mind. Reclaim your life. The real secret isn't buried in doctrines or texts. It's hidden in your mind. It's your right to choose. And that is the one thing that the governing body of the Jehovah's Witnesses fears the most. That's why they don't want you to go to the university. If you have driven benefit from this video, kindly do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that every time I upload a new video, you will receive a notification. If you believe that another person or other people benefit from this video, kindly share it with them. You can share with as many people as you want. If you want to make a contribution to this video, kindly put it in the comments below. Even if you disagree or you think that some facts are not correct, also put them in the comments below. If you have not watched other episode or any of the 4 episodes, click on this link to watch the video entitled The Tetragrammaton that proves that Jehovah is not God's divine name. Click on this link to watch the video entitled Armageddon. Click on this link. If you have enjoyed this video, kindly do me one favor. Like, subscribe, and smash the notice bell so that when I upload the next video, you'll receive a notification.